So here we are with what was at the time kind of a bit over $2 million left to finish the project, and they've completely gone under for no fault of ours at all.
You are listening to the Property Developer Podcast, your home for tips, ideas and inspiration to help take your developing to the next level. Now here's your host, Justin Getty.
Hello and welcome to episode 114 of your favourite Property Developer Podcast. So great to have you with me. How are you doing? I know what you're thinking. Gee, it's been a while, Justin, since you've put out an episode. Well, I've been pretty busy over the last couple of months. We've since settled on our house, so our family home, which we sold. We have moved out of the house. We've moved into the new house, and anyone that's moved house will know that that's a pretty stressful and time-consuming process. But we're out. We've done some renovations at the new house, had painters come in, carpet, all those kind of things that you get done. So it's been a pretty hectic and busy few months. And in between all that, my dad had a very bad stroke. So we had to deal with that. That was also a bit stressful to have to deal with. And amongst all of that, I kind of fell out of the habit of producing an episode for you. But here we are, and I'm back with an absolute ripper of an episode for you, speaking with Dan Holden from Holden Capital. We're going to talk about all things to do with the lending landscape, and then we're going to talk deeply about what happens when things go wrong during construction. So on the project front, I'm still trying to sell down my stock at my last project. I've actually got a unit settling today, so that will mean there's only 3 left to sell. We haven't been able to sell those last remaining 3 units through normal retail channels. So I've moved them over to a project marketer to sell them. So hopefully we get a really good result from them. On my other project, we are inching towards construction starting. We've got our civil plan in with council for endorsement. So we're just putting in place all the things that need to be done so that we can get started on site. And before we get to Dan, a quick plug for my property developer training program. Further to the conversation we're going to have with Dan, I've actually added some new content inside the training called Building Blueprint, which is all about making sure that your building phase in your property development project is a big success. I take all the lessons that I've had from my last project where things didn't quite go to plan with the builder, and I put those all into a training that's included with the property developer training. And we go in depth into contracts, how to find and select the right builder, getting all the pieces in place to ensure that your building is a big success. And then also what you can do if things don't go according to plan. So it's a really awesome addition to the property developer training. So if you are interested in getting into small scale residential property development, then this is the place to head to. So go to propertydevelopertraining.com and check out everything that you get. All right, let's move on to our conversation with Dan Holden. This is an absolute cracker of a chat. It's been a while since I've spoken with Dan, so it was really nice to catch up with him. We cover off the current lending landscape and what kind of projects he's been lending to. Really good to hear what's been happening. And then we have a long conversation about when building goes bad. So what happens when perhaps things don't go according to plan during the construction phase? And you will probably know there's been some issues through the building sector for the last couple of years. So it was really timely for us to cover off what happens in that scenario and how do you get yourself out of it. So I think you're really going to enjoy it. I had a great time speaking with Dan. So let's get stuck right into that conversation. Dan Holden from Holden Capital, welcome back once again to the Property Developer Podcast.
Thanks, Justin. Good to be here.
Always nice to have you on the show to talk about finance and development. We've got a really good topic coming up today where we'll talk about the state of the funding markets, what you've been up to, and then we're going to talk about what to do when things go wrong on a development, particularly during the construction phase.
Yep, no, it's a good topic. So happy to share my insights and hopefully help people that are facing something similar.
Yeah, well, we've both been through projects that haven't quite gone to plan from a construction point of view, so I think it'll be a really good conversation to have.
Yep.
But before we get to that, why don't you give us a bit of an update about what you've been up to?
Yeah, so I've been I guess for the last probably 12 months since I've spoken to you, it's been a little bit head down, bum up, just doing what we do and having fun and kind of getting money out the door, getting money in, raising it from investors, and getting money out, lending it to developers. And it's probably been I'd say more calm in the last 12 months. I'd say 2022 and 2023 was very tumultuous, mainly around construction, mainly around builders falling over and construction cost escalation going through the roof. Labour shortage, material cost escalation was huge, mainly in 21, 22, post-COVID. It's been a roller coaster. I think anyone that hasn't had a bit of a roller coaster, either is lying or they're safe in the harbour where there's no waves and no action. So I think it's been an interesting period, and definitely one that I guess from a funder's perspective you've got to stick to your fundamentals. You've got to cross your I's, dot your T's, do your homework. It's probably for us with the lender's hat on. It's probably been a case of happy doing a little bit less, but doing it safely, than trying to take over the world and have battle scars from the process. In saying that, we've got 2 of our 33 loans on our books. I'd say are in hospital, but they're now heading towards good conclusion, and we should be repaid in the next 2 or 3 months. So I'm not sure many lenders in the country could boast that kind of a stat, in a sense of only 2 that are needing care, and 31 loans that are green lights, looking down our portfolio of loans. We're definitely in a good position, and we feel like we're in a strong position. But it's been a challenging time, that's for sure. In terms of things that we've been doing, we started the lending business 8 years ago, started the brokerage business in 2011. And in that 8 years, we've had pretty open to Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne. We even funded some projects in Perth. We're probably in recent months, and probably because of these couple of loans that we've got that are a little bit long in the tooth and required extra management, probably a little bit more focused on SEQ at the moment, Southeast Queensland, and projects or just people that we know as well. And I think that I wouldn't say it comes from experience. I'd say it comes from that philosophy I said earlier, where doing a little bit less and being happy and sleeping at night, as opposed to taking over the world, is probably the approach. And so as a result, we're doing a lot in Southeast Queensland. So of our 33 loans, 31 of them are in Southeast Queensland. We've just been repaid on, I'd say, 5 or 6 loans from Sydney and Melbourne. And we're about to do one in Sydney, but it's someone that we know really well and a good operator, a good, simple project. We're in terms of geography, we're very focused on SEQ at the moment. Unless by exception, we'll go back to Sydney and Melbourne. In terms of project types, we're doing a lot of residential. In the last 2 years, we've done quite a bit of industrial. I'd say 60 or 70 million dollars in lending in industrial projects. We've done a couple of childcare centres. We're doing a KFC at the moment with Hutchinson's Builders and KFC as a tenant. So we do a wide variety of stuff. Land subdivisions, townhouses, residential, high-end res, even some lower-end build to rent, but not in the official capacity of build to rent. Most of the stuff we're doing is 15 mil and below loan size, and what I'd call short-form construction. So in and out within 12 months. It might end up being 15 or 18, that's fine, but it's not 10-story buildings and also by this loan size we do under 15 mil. That also is that kind of project size. In saying that, we just did a 5-story in Bondi Beach, Bellevue Hill. We just got repaid on. So we, again, by exception, when we like the deal, we'll kind of push the boundaries a little bit and get comfort with it. I guess the good thing about our fund structure is that we don't have any kind of rules. A lot of the bigger lenders have got these predetermined rules, and they got given their big bag of money based on parameters that they pre-agreed at the start, and they can't bend them no matter what. If we see something and it has a good business case and a good person behind it, we can pretty much fund it if we want to. It's just a matter of if we do want to. I guess across the board, it's we're feeling very strong and comfortable, but that's after some hard work and definitely in the last 12 months, we had 3 files that were kind of amber instead of green lights. We're now down to 2, and in the next 6 to 8 weeks, we'll be down to nil, which is going to be a great feeling to have a clean, healthy loan book. As I said, there's not many lenders that could even joke about having that or lie about it or pretend that they do, because there's a lot of bad projects out there, unfortunately. And I think that's a function of both bad lending practices, but also, developers taking on things they shouldn't take on either. So we've seen a period of time where there's, and I'm surprised there's not more, I guess, projects in the public domain well known about that are not going well, because there's definitely a lot of them happening. So I don't know whether the journalists are purposely not reporting them, or everyone's working hard to keep them under wraps. But there's definitely, if you keep your ear to the ground, which I try and do, you hear about the projects that aren't going well, and some potential, basket case war stories that probably aren't being told in the public arena. So, yeah, mate, overall, we're busy. We're doing stuff, but we're, head down, bum up, doing, I think last year we did 130 mil of lending. I think we did 28 new construction projects as a funder. As a broker, I think we did probably 300 or 400 million of brokerage. Kind of any loans that are above 15 mil, we broker out to other lenders. So we still do that as a function, but the primary focus, and my primary focus, is us as a lender. We're pretty much across the market, and it's definitely an interesting marketplace. I think for the last 18 months has been the craziest lending market I've seen. Happy to talk about that as well.
Before we get to the lending market, with the couple of projects that have gone off the rails a little bit, what can you share with us about what happened?
Yeah, happy to share. Not particulars of who the borrower is or anything, but in terms of what the things that went wrong, definitely construction time blowouts. Funnily enough, I don't think cost escalation has really been a massive damage on the 30 or 40 things that I fund a year. I haven't seen it kind of the dramatic cost jump be the killer. It's time that is the killer in the ones that I've seen. And we see that because you might have a 48-week build contract. So you do a 13-month loan term and you're still there in month 18. The two that went well long in Sydney for us, you're talking 2.5 years to do an 8-unit project. It sounds like you can sympathise with that. Another one we're doing is, which again went long, was 2 houses side by side, but the developer who's an owner builder, taking on multiple projects at once and not having the resources to get them done. It would have been, better off just doing one, and when that one's coming to completion, overlap them a little bit, because different trades and different skills in your team do different jobs. To do so many at once and try and spread yourself so thin. And I'm seeing that with builders as well, not just when it's an owner, developer, builder, but one of the points I was going to talk about was builders taking on, they've probably got capacity to do 5 jobs in a given year, or kind of at a time, roughly overlapping. And sometimes they're taking on 10, just going, I'll take the work while I can and I'll figure it out later, and I'll fight for time extensions and, just get the work and figure it out. And so I've seen jobs go bad from that, us as a lender from that perspective as well. Where you see one of the ones was 6 townhouses, very simple job, would have been 20 months. And I know that builder is doing so many other projects, and a little bit of argy-bargy with that builder and developer relationship. And that builder just went, cool, I'm gonna resource other jobs because you're a bit of a tough person to deal with, to put it politely. So the builder just goes, cool, I've got this much time allowed in the contract. I'm going to use every day of it plus some, and do your worst. So one of the points I was going to cover, talking about builders and engaging them and dealing with them, is if you think you've got a contract and they have to do this, and you all you have to do is pay them and all that kind of stuff. There's plenty of tricks in the book for a builder to turn against you And I reckon the worst one is just to plain ignore you. And I've seen it, and it's painful because you can't grab them by the shoulders and shake them because they just go, I've got a contract and I'll stick to it. Thanks. See you later. I guess the interesting part from my position, I've been funding projects since 2007, and prior to that, I was a development manager, managing projects myself. So, more than 20 years watching this space. The interesting part is being the lender, you have, front row pole position with the popcorn to watch all the craziness that goes on. And, you're a lot of the time you are involved in it because you're a stakeholder of the project and seeing what's happened. Some of the stuff that goes on, you think you've seen it all, and something else comes up and you go, wow, I don't know how they come up with that, but and most of the time the builder wins. The builder, as I said, they've got plenty of tricks in the book, and it's not to say they're all doing it in a conniving way. It's just that a lot of the time it's the developer thinking that they're smarter than the average bear, and they go and kind of on the offensive trying to win things or save costs, generally saving costs, and they don't realise that it's costing them time, and time is money. And you see them having a fight right at the end, peak debt fully drawn, buyers there waiting to come in or haven't even taken it to market yet, and they're having a fight over 100 grand, 150 grand on something stupid, and they're costing themselves 80 grand a month in interest or more. And you just as I said, you can't really get involved and shake them by the shoulders and say you're being an idiot, but sometimes you want to. But as I say, it's we've got a very interesting position to see all these things when they do happen, and they don't happen on every job, but probably a quarter of the jobs there's some kind of a battle or friction, and you see it happening and you see it escalate, and as it's escalating, you're like, we could solve this real quickly, but whether it's out of principle or spite or most of the time it's just people trying to get one up and trying to save a few bucks, and the outcome usually is not pretty. I could give you a dozen more stories, and happy to go into a couple. But to answer your original question, it was time that killed these projects, and I guess also getting to the end of the project, the developer seeing that the revenues are fixed, the costs have gone up a little bit, but the time's gone out a lot. They then look sourly at the whole project because they could resell them in the marketplace. If it's 1.8 mil product and you could resell it now for 2.1, and you're now looking at not making much profit, you're just bitter with the whole thing. But the time erosion has been the biggest one that I've seen. The most common one I've seen in the last 18 months. And as I said, probably the 18 months prior to that was the cost escalation in both labour and being able to find a builder to begin with. And then the 18 months prior to that was material escalation. So it's kind of gone materials, just general cost escalation and time and labour. And now we're seeing even the process of getting approvals at the end, like that 8 units we did in Bellevue Hill, kind of on the border of Bellevue Hill and Bondi. Right at the end, the government department that gave out the approval said, now you need a 2% bond. So 300 grand, you've got to find it in it overnight. Otherwise, the whole project sits there doing nothing. So even just the regulatory stuff, I'm seeing a lot of that regulatory costing projects time. And we've definitely seen that on the two that are well over time that we're still the lender on in Sydney. It's that, fire compliance, like it's 6 weeks to get a fire panel. Meanwhile, you're fully drawn, and then you've got to get the fire department back out there to inspect it. That's holding up all of your compliance and certificates, and you've got buyers there waiting to move in, and you're just kind of stuck. So even the best managers, not that those guys are the best managers, but even the little things are catching people out. And at the moment, I'm seeing a lot of projects getting stuck at the finish line, and that's an extra 3 months just to muck around with this kind of stuff. So we've taken a lot of that on board as a lender, and we're a lot more, prudent now to the timing that we're giving in the loan. It used to be very simply QS or build contract plus 3 months, and that'll be enough to get you titled and settled. We're now saying, well, let's just pad that out a little bit more so that we're not stressed and we're not rushed and we're not trying to find money at the last minute to, pay things and keep it going. I guess to answer the question, it was time eroded those, damaged those ones, and build then compliance at completion, which also, as I said, got us a little bit cautious on Sydney because the compliance down there is pretty crazy. I think anyone doing projects in Sydney will agree with that.
Yes, I just realized when you started talking about all these issues that you might trigger some PTSD with me. I started thinking about my project.
Yeah.
And just to set the scene for people who perhaps don't know, I was doing a 14 townhouse project, started in COVID, started okay, and then things really went off the rails with the builder. And ultimately it took twice as long to get built. It was supposed to be 15 months, took 3 years. It was just such a battle. The costs were, as you say, it's the time that really kills you, just the accumulation of interest and just the slowness. And it just was really challenging. And no, I'm not alone. Lots of people went through it and a lot of people fell over, builders included, as well as developers. So much so that I ended up adding a new course to my online property developer training called Building Blueprint around the lessons that I learned from that process to try and help people get through construction, because it's just such a huge part of the development process. And sort of you're talking 50% of your development budget goes into the construction side of things. And it's all fine when things are going well. But when it starts to go off the rails, that's when you start to realize, are there issues with the contract, or what are the real nitty-gritty issues that you have to deal with and be aware of primarily before you even get into them? But then how do you solve them and how do you get out of them? So I've got some experience dealing with things when they're going off the rails. And I know you've obviously had the armchair view as a lender, which I'm guessing also isn't easy, but you've also had your own practical experience doing a development, being the developer when a builder either fell over or you had issues. So
I have, yeah. So
a little bit about that, so we can.
I did a medical and childcare centre in Western Brisbane, and we tendered it to 3 builders. 2 of the builders that I knew kind of personally, the principal of those building companies, and the other had been around for 60 years. A very well-known Brisbane building family, and they were 400 grand cheaper and been around 60 years and ticks all the boxes, and they were, available and ready, and so we took them on. Unfortunately, and this is contingent risk, nothing went wrong with our job. It was a 5.2 mil build, 1,200 metre ground floor retail coffee medical centre, and then a 112 place childcare centre around the back on the top section. So we had some tenants, we were ready to go, DA owned the land, ready to go, chose the wrong builder in the end. And so, as soon as the structure was up, they had an issue with other projects that they were doing. It was actually in Perth, of all places. And it was actually the West Australia government where they, essentially lost a heap of money tied up fighting a battle with them. And as a result, they wound up the building company. Landscape Constructions, it's a well-known thing that they went under. And so here we are with what was at the time kind of a bit over $2 million left to finish the project, and they've completely gone under for no fault of ours at all. And so, that is an experience. So we had to, try and find a new builder. It was not easy. Other builders don't want to pick up someone else's mess. Even though they're a well-respected, well-known company. So it's not like, any builder trying to take over a job would probably go, the developer's probably the problem or the project's probably the problem. There was nothing wrong with our project, and we had a good relationship with that, Lansky. But trying to find a new builder to take that over is just impossible. And so, we ended up getting a builder who would do it from a contract admin point of view, but we essentially had to do the finish the job. And so they were there to, do all of the things you need to do from that perspective, but trying to get the subbies back on site when they haven't been paid for months. Like we had stat decks from the builder saying he paid everyone. All of a sudden you're getting phone calls, you're getting abusive phone calls from subbies. We had one particular tradesman very angry, kind of angry at us. I've never met the bloke, and we've always paid the builder. Came on site, damaged things, stole things. It was about a 30 grand repair job to fix the damage that he did to the project. And then we're going to try and get him back to finish the job, knowing that he's the punk that just, carried on like a 5-year-old, and trying to finish that. So anyway, it was about $1.5 million on top to finish over the original budget. Total big blowout in costs, but time was the other one. Like the time was just, it would have taken an extra 1.5 years. We were probably 4 months from completion with Lansky's and a bit over 2 mil. The end result would have been, well over 12 months, probably closer to 15. So about a year extra time and about $1.5 million extra cost. And that's through no fault of ours. So in terms of, I guess, sharing war stories, that's me rolling the sleeves up and negotiating with subbies to finish this job and being out there finishing that. So that was definitely an interesting experience. So we sold that asset for 15 mil a bit over 1.5 years ago. But 6-year project from when I bought the land to completion, tenanting, getting it all done, and it's nothing to show for it. Anything that can happen sometimes will happen, and I guess that's one story for me as the developer with the principal hat on, and plenty of other stories to talk through and share perspectives on as a lender as well.
Yeah, and it's a good point to make, that sometimes you can do all the right things and then you still end up in trouble. The builder goes under through no fault of your own. Because I remember reflecting back when I was having troubles with the builder, thinking, could I have done something differently to get a different builder? And you go, well, no, I followed a really good process to tender and selected a number of good builders. And I think everything I did from that perspective in terms of builder selection was correct. Yeah. They'd done the projects in the past, but they just got caught up in the industry issues that were affecting everybody. So you just have to go, okay, I've got to deal with the issue that's in front of me and fight my way through it. Yep.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And I guess from the lender's perspective, when I talk to new developers, interview them about whether we should lend them money or not, they're the kind of questions that we're asking is, how did you arrive at choosing this builder? I also ask, how did you arrive at choosing this project? Because, some of them say, I just bought it out of prime site on a Friday and that means you paid the most. So well done. You can't applaud that because they haven't really used any skill in that. But the process for choosing the project, the process for choosing the builder, the process for choosing the product they're doing. You could do 4 $3 million product, or you could do 8 lower end, cheaper, crappier product. So how did you get to that formula? How did you get to that decision? And the one about how they chose the builder or the civil contractor is one that I love. I love seeing what they, what science they're applying to it. Is it science? Is it art? How are they approaching that? Have they used the same builder for many, many projects? They've got the relationship and they, flirt with another builder to keep the price honest, but they don't really tender it. I guess the worst answer is, I've tendered it to 7 people. And you go, well, if the builder gets a request and there's 6 other people on the list, they're going to put 2 minutes of effort into pricing your job. You are not going to get a proper price. You're not going to get a builder who is excited to win that tender, because if he wins that tender, it's almost because he's priced it wrong, because he's underquoted it somewhere. He's missed something. You got, hey, you won the tender. Oh, what did I miss? It's like, from a builder's point of view, it's like when you put an offer on a site that's on market and you go, oh, you won. You go, oh, that means I paid the most. You didn't win a prize. It's because you've missed something, and you're the, if there's 10 offers and you're the one that paid the most, that means 9 other people have done their homework and arrived at a price lower than you. Put yourself in the builder's shoes. They're quoting a job for $6 million build, and everyone else is more like 7, you get the call, hey, you won the job. Oops, what have I done wrong? So, but yeah, back to the question, what I ask developers when we're interviewing them to lend the money, what process did you go through to do it? And yeah, if I could joke about the wrong answers, I guess answers that we do like hearing is, early engagement with a QS to get a cost budget. It probably doesn't have to be a bill of quantities like a full-on QS report, but a takeoff so that you can show that to the builder. Because definitely for the last, 4 or 5 years, getting a builder is challenging enough, let alone making them want to win the job. Like I was saying before, if you win, sometimes it's a shock. So trying to get them interested in tendering. And so, yeah, one of the great answers is I paid $5,000 to a quantity surveyor who did a takeoff of quantities. I provided that to 2 or 3 parties who I know I have a previous relationship with, or I've interviewed prior to me having a job to give them. That's another hot tip for you. I love meeting developers when they don't need money. People that contact me and say, Dan, can we grab a coffee or a quick sandwich? I just want to get to know you. I don't need 5 mil or 10 mil this week, but I will one day, and I want to reach out to you when I need it. Do the same with your builders. Do the same with real estate agents. If you're focused on a particular area, you should be knowing those agents, at least that if you call them, they take your call, they know who you are, what you do, what your product is. You should be like that with 3 or 4 agents in your area so that you're across the market. You should be that way with 3 or 4 builders who could build your product. And not doing myself out of a job here, but you should be that way with 3 or 4 lenders that you go, I know the kind of projects that you fund. I know the kind of projects you like. I know what your process is. I know your journey to get an approval and the information you need. You should be that across that detail well ahead of when you need it. If you need it tomorrow, it's too late. And that's the same with builders, agents, even valuers, quantity surveyors. We've got a panel of valuers and quantity surveyors. Pretty much any firm you want, we'll probably make it work from a quantity surveyor's perspective. But I'll be like, for this particular job, you should really use this guy. He does 20 of those projects a year, and he knows the numbers inside out. Same with the valuer. You'll be like, rather than just calling the big firms and getting whatever jockey came out of school last month and he's on site and you never even meet him. That's not the right approach, in my opinion. You should be, meeting the valuer on site, walking them around, show them the walk score and how good it is, how close it is to amenities, why you bought this site, how you bought that site. Everyone thinks they underpaid on a site, right, and stole it. Explain that process, explain the challenges with the planning approval and why you push boundaries and how you maximise the site. You should be explaining all that to the valuer, not just letting the lender pick one who you never meet, you pay for, you never even see the report. That's not a fair process, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'd be, as I say, the best answer I love hearing is, we've done the early work. It's not we just sent 4 pages of plans my architect gave me and I sent it to a bunch of builders who I don't know if I sat next to them on a bus. Like, that's the bad answer. The good answer is I've put in the work. I've paid my architect to do the structurals and, I've got the civil engineer or an engineer to design up all of the groundwork conditions. I've given that whole information package to 2 or 3 builders that I know I have a prior relationship with, even if it's just that sandwich a year ago, that you go, hey, I've got a job, I like it, I want to work with you on it, and I'm ready to go. That's the start of a good relationship. I'm in the relationship lending game, and that relationship is that a developer can call us and say, I've got this challenge, and because of that relationship, we'll go, great, how can we solve it? And the relationship's also us with the borrowers, the developers, that they go, hey, Dan, I need 10 mil for this. We go, great, let's do it. That's the relationship you get. And just like when you buy a site, that if you've got a builder that you consistently use, that you'll be like, hey, I just bought a new project. Let's grab a sandwich and talk through it. I want to walk you through the plans and show you, not just my architect will send you a zip file of the plans. Yeah, you can see the difference in the answers that we get on these kind of questions. that help us understand that developer and how capable they are, how resourceful they are. Because if that's on a project that goes well, imagine how we see people when a project doesn't go well and how resourceful they are and how good they are at solving problems. The first two documents that I like to see from a borrower is their financial statement to say, hey, I've got some assets, I'm not geared to the hilt, and I've got and their track record. And some people are like, why do you need to see my track record? I told you I've done 4 projects. Great. What were they? And what went wrong on them? And how did you manage them? The thing we're trying to find from that is how resourceful are you? When something goes wrong, that you're capable of finding a solution, you're capable of holding a frank and honest conversation with that builder to get a solution, and that you're capable of not being a hothead and saying, if you builder, I'm going to appoint a lawyer, and like the moment you call a lawyer, you've lost. Everyone's lost. And I see some people do that. I've got a good litigation lawyer. Well, great. You go and pay him. You're not going to solve the problem. The best solution to the problem is get the builder back on site, get that thing finished, and sell the product and repay the debt and make a profit. Because if you carry on like a pork chop down that road, and I've seen plenty of projects in the last couple of years where the developer walks away with no profit at all. The worst answer is I've got a good litigation lawyer. The best answer is let's get in a room together and try and sort this thing out. I know plenty of times when the cost escalation was massive in 22 and 23. And as I say, it's easy for me with the armchair and the popcorn, but I would see the battles kind of brewing and then happening. And in quite a few occasions, I would jump in and, we're fighting over 300 grand on a $8 million GR project, right? Or a 10 mil GR project. And the amount they're fighting over is, of course, it's 300 grand. It's a lot of money, right? But it's costing you 80 grand a month to sit there and fight about it. I could name half a dozen jobs where I just went, what if I paid it? And they go, what do you mean? I'm like, I'll increase the loan facility and I'll pay the builder by Friday. Pay us back when you sell the product. Many times that would solve the thing. It's the developer going, oh, I've got too much on. I've bitten off more than I can chew. I don't have 300 grand sitting in the bank account to just give you, Mr. Builder. You created the problem, you fix the problem. And you'd see that friction. And so I would just say, I'll cover it. And let's just get back on site, finish the job, fight about it later if you want to. But most of the time, they don't want to because they know it's stupid and they should just get on with the next project. So, often I would just say, can I solve it? Money fixes most problems. And, we're in the game of lending money. I'll lend you the money. Let's get it done. Let's get the builder on site. Let's get the job finished.
Yeah, look, getting it finished is just so unbelievably important because at least when it's finished, you have an asset.
Exactly.
Until it's finished, it's just a liability. And then at least you got options when it's finished. Sell it, keep it, you got something. Until it's finished, you got nothing really, except a headache to try and finish if it's not finished and the builder's walked away. So I think it's really important to point out that a lot of the risk mitigation measures that you can take to ensure that your building process is a success happens, as you say, long before the builder actually signs the contract. All those things that you can do leading up to that, getting good consultants on board, your QS, your valuer, your building surveyor, your designer, your legal team, all those people with a lot more experience than you can really help you to make sure that you appoint the right builder or that you're at least talking to the right people before your appointment. Because
absolutely, your team is critical. Like, who would think that a lender is actually rolling the sleeves up and trying to help solve the problem between a builder and a developer? And yet, because we are across so many projects and we see these various issues on various projects, and we're happy to help, we're like, well, hey, what about this solution? What about that? How do we solve it? We want the problem solved because we just want the money back and go on to our next project too. So if you've got a good team that you can lean on, they're working on a bunch of different projects than you're working on, and they've seen a bunch of different things in their past. The team should be a team that they want to help get this thing done. And we definitely see ourselves as a lender as part of that team to get it solved, get it finished, and get it done.
Yeah, I think when things are a bit wobbly with construction or building, which they have been for the last few years, I think you need to you need to do the same level of due diligence with appointing the builder that you would apply when you're trying to acquire the site. Because people are looking at the site going, oh, I've got to make sure that I make the right selection with the site. And they go through a really thorough process of before buying the site, or at least they should.
Yeah,
And they talk to the design team, they talk to their accountant, they talk to the legal people, whatever, all these things that they go through before they acquire the site.
yeah.
They need to do the same level of due diligence before appointing the builder. And
They should. They should. And as I said, I welcome and invite people to do the same before they appoint us as the lender. Ask us for some references of previous borrowers. Do your previous borrowers still talk to you? That's a start. There's plenty of war stories in our space. As I said, come and interview us before you need to borrow money. Ask us what, we'll talk through some of the other 33 loans we've got in our loan book at the moment. We'll talk, refer to some of our long-standing clients. I've had one client since 2007, and we're still funding them today. If I was painful to deal with, he wouldn't keep borrowing money from me. We've got another client who's, I think we're on loan 22 in the last 6 years. So if we were painful to deal with, he would not be coming back to us. And that's relationship and being good to deal with and helping solve problems. Even that developer that we're on loan 22 with, he had like a 450 grand power substation pop up at the last minute, and we're jumping in going, great, how do we fix it? Let's get it solved. So even experienced guys like that, and long-standing relationship that we've got with him, problems arise, you need a team there to jump in and solve it. So as I said, we welcome the interrogation on us the same as you would a builder. And I often say that appointing a lender is similar to how you would appoint a builder. Sure, get quotes, go for it, no problem at all. But interview them and ask those other, how quick do you pay drawdowns? Who's on your valuation panel? Will I ever get to meet your valuer? That's a start. Or do they appoint them in a back room and tell them to mark it down or whatever? Same with the QS. If you've got, like I said before, jokingly, you appoint one of the big firms and you get some kid out of uni. We've got one of those on a job at the moment, and we joke about it, but gee, it's painful. Every progress claim we get, we're like, we've got to triple check everything, call his boss, make sure he's read it. Like, bloody hell, it's painful for everyone, So getting the right team is critical. Going back to interviewing us and interrogating us as a lender, just like you would a builder, it sounds like a cop-out or whatever to say that the cheapest isn't best. But if we're doing a $12 million GR project and you've got a quote from someone else and they're 20 grand difference, first of all, tell us, because we'll try and find a way to fix it. But second of all, 20 grand in the journey that you go through with a builder, particularly if something goes wrong, there are a number of lenders out there. The moment something goes wrong, they just appoint the lawyer, and it's just like a simpleton developer. I'll appoint a lawyer and they'll fix it. Some lenders, that is their get recovery. The moment you're a day overdue, the moment there's a problem, they just hand the file to the lawyers and say, sorry, I can't talk to you anymore. I've seen it. I've been doing brokerage for a long time. I've seen lenders that do that. And you go, well, how do you even fix that, right? Because now you're dealing through a lawyer who's racking up $550 an hour every time you bloody talk to them, and you got all these kind of challenges and issues. Same with, what are you going to do when they need an extension of time? You got to ask these questions of the lender that you're interviewing, and what happens when this goes wrong. Talk through scenarios. Talk through scenarios that you've had is the best case. Go, hey, let me tell you about this job I had. It was 14 townhouses and that took me 30 months. What would you guys have done in that situation? How would you have helped me? Rather than just slugging me with default interest, what are you going to do to help in that situation? And can you give me an example of what you did, a project that you funded where you had something similar? I'll give you an example right now of one that we're actually refinancing on Tuesday next week. It was a 12-month project. It's here in Brisbane, beautiful suburb, great location, good developer. We're on progress claim 33. We are still get along well with the builder, the developer. No one's done anything wrong. He's had all kinds of bloody regulatory QU and bloody Intergex, mate, everything's gone against him. Thankfully, he hasn't pre-sold that product, and that product's gone from 5.5 mil pre-valuation to now closer to 7 mil per product. So he's in the money. But if you had a lender that just went, mate, you're expired, you're on default, talk to my lawyer, geez, that would have been a nightmare for him, right? So yeah, as I say, interview the builder. Yes, it's about price. Yes, it's about feasibility, viability, but it's also about surety. It's also about knowing that you're going to get this thing finished, and you want those questions answered from the builder. You want it the same from the lender. You want them as your team, and you want to know that they're going to solve a problem. If it not just point the problem at you and go, whoops, you've got a problem. That they go, okay, well, how do we fix it? Let's get it back on site. And you want that from the builder too. You want to be able, if you've got a cost overrun, an issue on site, you want the builder to go, can you meet me on site? I want to talk you through this. Talk you through it. Here's one solution. It's going to be 80 grand and take 2 weeks. Here's another solution. It's 150 grand and it'll take a week. Okay, that's excellent. I choose option A or option B. Let's get on with it. If the builder just waits till the end and whacks you with big variations, and I've seen that, they don't talk about the problem. Final claim, bang, here's your big variation. And the developer goes, what? Hang on. You never made me pay for that then. Why are you making me pay for it right at the end? And then they're holding all your certificates, and now you've got to try and fight that problem in a real short period of time. That's a really common builder's trick, is they give you all the problems the week before final payment when you need those certificates and you need that occupation certificate or practical completion or whatever. That's the time they bring out the dirty laundry. So yeah, knowing that, having that kind of forewarned is a big thing. And that's why what I said before, in a sense of, we want to see the developers' previous projects so that we know they've got the resourcefulness to solve those problems when they arise. Every project has some kind of problem. It might be council. It might be urban utilities. It might be that you've got to go and knock on their door every morning at 9 a.m. until you get an outcome. It might be that you've got to call them every morning at 9 o'clock. And that's you going direct, not through your town planner. Like, it's just having that kind of resourcefulness that you're going to get those things solved. That's what we want to see when we're talking to a new developer or potential candidate. But that, as I say, that's also what you should be asking of us as a lender, and you should also be asking that of the builder. That's why I say me asking that question about how you're choosing your builder, how you chose the site, why you love the site so much, all of those things in terms of process is, I find, really interesting.
Yes, well, we had our lender spend our facility once the builder kind of stopped working and was demanding all this extra money. And I was going to them, you're punishing me for something that I haven't had any responsibility for. Like, this is all on the builder, but you're punishing us for it.
Yep.
But they just go, well, they're too much risk and we're not prepared to keep giving them money if this project's not going to be finished. So you got to find a way to come up with extra money to keep things moving.
And some lenders will be like that, because there are more than a dozen lenders that are kind of in our space, and they raise money per progress claim. So when you're on progress claim 33 of a 12-month build, how are they going to find money? Because their investors are going to go, something's gone wrong. I don't want to keep putting money into that one. So even asking a lender how you raise your money, when is my money available? My money, right? When can I have it? Well, it takes 3 weeks to pay a drawdown. Jeepers, all these kind of things, you need to be asking those questions of a lender, and you need to be asking it of the builder as well. I'll give you a prime example of that. Project, we're actually still a lender on it. It's been going for 2 years, but it's a beautiful project. The builder contacts us directly and says, why haven't you paid my progress claim? I'm like abusively. It's 1 o'clock. I said, mate, I got it at 10 a.m. We'll be paid by the end of the day. Oh, you banks, you're all the same. I'm like, well, one, I'm not a bank, but a bank could be 21 days. Read your document, mate. 21 days to pay a progress claim, and I paid it within a couple of hours. And the guy's already irate at me. So in that situation, I'm like, he's obviously angry. He doesn't know me from a bar of soap, so he can't be angry at me. And but he's just irate about the whole process. We've got a project at the moment that we're looking to take over mid construction from another lender, and the builder is constantly a month from when he lodges his invoice to getting paid, and he just said, "I'm sick of it. You either find yourself a new builder or find yourself a new lender." So we drove out to site Friday week before last, and good project, good builder, good guy. He's just sick of it. He just said, "Mate, yeah, get yourself a new builder or a new lender. I'm sick of I'm funding your project." His view, and I'm sick of it. I'm constantly out of pocket, hundreds of thousands of dollars, waiting to get reimbursed. This is not good enough. So even those kind of factors that your lender then affects your builder, and now your builder's shitty. Again, it's something you haven't done, but you do have control over. So I've even seen developers with other lenders, and they're having to actually cash fund until the lender catches up. So yeah, these are all things you should be asking. I say it, I'm repeating myself, but because it's so true. You need to interview people. You need to ask them the right questions. You need to put them to account and ask them for what they've done in this situation. Both builder and lender. Everyone should be, explaining their processes to you from the start.
Yeah, and it's good to keep in mind that not all builders are just bastards out to get you. I mean, they got their own complicated challenges to deal with as well, which can be really, really hard for them to manage. Huge costs that they're carrying, as you mentioned, like big numbers on materials and labor that they're paying for before they get money in the door to cover it. So it's just good to keep in mind that not everybody's out to get you. And there's a question of trust there with your builder that can be so easily broken. Because, these little things start happening where you think, oh, they're wanting to charge me $5,000 variation for this or a $7,000 variation for that. And things can start chipping away. And then you can find yourself in a position where you'd start to think, are they ripping me off? I think they're just trying to gouge me here. And that trust
And the
breaks
moment you get
down, and
that
then it's
thought
really
in your
hard
mind, you'll be thinking about it for a while. So it's just started raining here and a bit of background noise.
Yeah, so that trust can disappear quickly, and then it's really, really, it's a grind after that.
Yep.
Because both sides think they're just out to screw me, and things can get in. That just becomes really challenging and difficult.
Yeah. And also, there's certain things that a developer can do to improve or start with and maintain a strong relationship with the builder. Not making changes throughout is a big one. And you see that more in mum and dad residential stuff than you do in the commercial space. But you still see it in commercial space. Oh, yeah, we might make some mezzanine floors in those industrial sheds now. It was like, I'm nearly finished, mate. Like, I've already sent my crew to other jobs and I've already committed to other jobs, and now you want to change this. And so you see that stuff. The developer's job is design it all up front. Preferably don't change it, and pay him as quick as you can. Get the guy paid, keep him happy. When those problems come up, issues with the ground condition or something like that, be out on site within a couple of hours or the next day, talk through it with him, hear his opinion, get a couple of options from him, and make a quick decision. Another big thing I see from people, how they stuff it up, lack of a better word, is indecision. They don't decide. Indecision is a decision itself. If you can make a quick decision and get to a solution, whether it's the right or wrong solution, is probably better than sitting on indecision for weeks. And I say, looking at various different projects and various issues, I'd say a common one that causes the most damage is indecision. And that's why I say, get out on site, walk around with the builder, find it, explain the problem. Great, what are my options? Pick one. Whether it's right or wrong, it'd be better than sitting on a decision for 3 weeks. There's a variety of things there that I pick up from watching pro-level developers and how they manage their projects in a positive fashion that I learn along the way. But also you learn from the negative as well when people do stuff it up and have issues.
Yeah, well, I learnt that you can tell how well the building phase is going in a project by how often the contract is on your desk And how many
Yeah,
yellow sticky notes are in the different sections of the contract with
yeah,
handwritten notes in the
yeah.
contract.
That's the
If it's on your
yeah.
desk all the time, it's not good.
No, that's not good. It's not a Bible. It's a what do we do when shit goes wrong document.
Yeah.
And yeah, in a good project, hopefully you never look at it. And I think in a good relationship between a builder and developer, hopefully you never look at it. Hopefully you are out on site solving the problem as quick as you can through a conversation that doesn't get heated, and you can just get on with the job. Is the ideal scenario.
Yeah, and the construction contract is actually a really pivotal piece of documentation with the builder, and it's something that you need to discuss with them beforehand.
Definitely.
What kind of contract are you going to use? Is it just a simple domestic one? Are you going to use a
Yep.
commercial one? Which one are you going to use? And you need to understand those smaller domestic industry contracts are favored towards the
Absolutely.
builder. And so you
And
just need
and,
to know
and
that.
what are the per day delay costs? How are we doing a retention? Is it cash or bank guarantee? When is the retention released? Is a big one. Some people go, oh, I've got a retention, and you go, yeah, but it's released 30 days after PC, or half on PC, half 30 days later. Something pops up on day 31, they're gone, mate. Like they're out of there. So yeah, things like that you got to work through. A good tip there, what I mentioned at the start as well, is engaging a QS early. Hopefully that QS might have even dealt with that builder before, or maybe they've even heard something bad about that builder. The other thing, go and check out some of their other jobs. I do that even on projects we're funding, and sometimes the developer hasn't even done it. I'll be like, oh, jump in the ute and I'll go and check out his site down the road. You go there and there's 15 people and it's buzzing and there's white utes in the street. You go, great, this is a well-resourced job and this guy's flying it. You go to some jobs and there's one bloke walking around with a wheelbarrow and you're like, what's going on? Who are you? What do you want? I'm like, mate, I just want to say hello. Like you can pick up the difference in the vibe and the cleanliness of the site. As I say, how many people are there, what their attitude is, what you can just pick up the things that it's like spidey senses, right? You get on site and you go, this thing's flying it, or why is there no one here when it's at this pivotal part of the job, there should be people everywhere. And yeah, just general tidiness, all that kind of stuff. They're all things that you want to understand about the builder before you get in a marriage with them, because it is a 18-month marriage.
Yeah, well, I had to go on site to try and push my project along to get finished. So I was going along to site every day and helping out, although I don't know whether the builder thought I was helping out. But anyway, I was on site and it was an amazing experience
Yeah,
just seeing what the hell happens on a development site day to day and the way the trades come in, the stuff they do, what they don't do. It
yeah,
was just incredibly eye-opening experience.
yeah,
And it's just there's so much that goes wrong with people on
yeah,
site not being
yeah,
supervised. When you got 14 units and they got to go and fix something in unit 6 and there's no site supervisor there to tell them exactly what they need to do. They just make
yeah,
it up. Some of the work that they do, you think, how on earth did you do that? Step back, look at it and think it was okay, and then leave the site. Like,
yeah,
come
yeah,
on, it's so bad.
yeah. I mean, even down to things like, at completion, I'm going to pay a defects guy to come and do it. Sometimes the builder will say, get nicked. It is what it is. Even just if you're at that point of the relationship, there's no relationship left, right? You just you're at it. One thing I've seen developers that will, at certain points through the job, send 20 pizzas and 3 cartons of beer on a Friday afternoon. Hey boys, thanks very much. Love working with you. Keep the guys happy. Like so many different things that you see, and you go, these guys are doing it well. These guys are doing it shit. And the guys that aren't doing it well are, I threw it out to 7 people for tender. I've got a good litigation lawyer. He made the mistake, not me. That kind of combativeness. Whereas the collaborativeness is where you get the wins and you see people do it well. What is the problem? How do we fix it? Give me some options and I'll pick one straight away. That's collaborative and that's combative. It's a big difference. Chalk and cheese.
Yeah, and look, most builders and most trades, They don't get up in the morning and think, I'm going to go and do a crap job on someone's project or on the site. But things do happen. But you've got to stay engaged and involved with your project and get on site and have a look. You've got to go
Yep.
regularly and check out what's happening every
Yep.
week as a minimum,
I,
I think.
I like the saying, everyone thinks they're a nice person. So even that guy that's kind of, it might look like he's screwing you over on something. Like you say, he didn't wake up trying to do it. He's just trying to get, but you see the spike come in, particularly late in the contract. People are tired. They're tired of talking to you, tired of looking at you. They're going to find a way to get a little win. When you see that, as I say, the moment you see it start disintegrating, it usually gets worse from there. It rarely gets better.
Oh, there's absolutely, you go get project fatigue when it hasn't been going well. By the end of it, you just can't think, everyone's just thinking, we've got to get off site. We've got to finish this thing. Get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us, what are some of the warning signs that you see or that you think about where the builder's starting to wobble along or maybe go off the rails?
So I'd definitely say one of the questions that should be asked, and we ask of builders, and the developers should be asking, not waiting for us to ask, how many other jobs you got, how many full-time staff you got, what things do you subcontract, at what point do you continually subcontract that you actually bring them on full-time. You might find that they had them on full-time, whether it's concreter or a drafty. We had them on full-time, we couldn't get enough work, and we, now we contract all of that, talk through the process from start to finish, which bits you're contracting, which ones are your full-time staff, how many other jobs you've got on, how well can you resource my job. You're telling me 11-month build, but the contract says 16. What's going on? Why? What's that? What's a realistic time frame? I understand your contract has to allow for events to happen and whatever, but why is there so much fat in it? These are the kind of questions that you should be having over a sandwich or out on site at one of their other jobs that they're doing. Give us some references. Who else you're building for? Do they still like you? That's a good one. Who are you working for? Great. Would they give a reference? Do they still like you? Are you still friends with them? I guess even talking to some of their subcontracts, if the job's big enough, it would warrant to actually go to that level. To actually talk to some of their previous developers. Can I have 2 or 3 names and numbers that I can call? Even just the fact that they would give you that probably gives you a bit more confidence and gut feel than if they go, oh, no, they're private people. Well, he probably doesn't have any friends left. That's not a good sign, right? So, they're the kind of things I'd be looking for. In terms of on the red flags to look for when you're in a job and you're already married to them, I'd say you don't necessarily need to be on site, but, driving past once a week during work hours and the white ute test, if there's not 5 to 10 white utes in the street that are related to your job, you're probably under-resourced and they're probably overcommitted, overextended, taken on more jobs than they should, and you're the runt on the list. You go to one of their other jobs that they're currently building and there's 10 utes in the street and there's 15 blokes on site. You're not his friend, you're not his favourite. He's prioritising other things over you. That's one key one I'd be. Another one is about the quantity surveyor. The builder and quantity surveyor is a battle of the ages. Ask them other quantity surveyors they've worked with, and do they still like you? Would you be happy for them to be on the job? That fight I see, and that fight's a lot different dynamic because the QS is only being paid $1,000 a drawdown. He doesn't really give a shit. You're like, no, I'm not saying that in a bad way to the QS. The QSs we work with are great blokes, but their involvement, they're not a stakeholder of that project. They're there to do a job and get out. And whether they approve a 600 claim or a 900 claim doesn't really affect them dramatically. But you as the developer and the builder, you're the stakeholders. So even, wanting to be involved in that process as opposed to just go, well, that's the bank's QS's job. You go, no, I want to understand that. So ask the builder, I'm thinking about using this QS. Have you used them before? Yes. Okay. Is he good? Hear what the builder's saying about the QS. Even ask the builder what he thinks about the lender. These kind of things you'll get a feel for what's going to happen. So as I say, along the way, there'll be at least one or two disputes about a drawdown amount, and just to see how the builder's going to manage that. The common one is paying for materials that aren't yet on site, not fixed on site, can't claim it. Do you have a lender that will help you with that? And we've done that on occasion. And is the QS aware of that process, and that at this month, the builder's probably going to ask for something that you might not be able to verify? What's going to happen then? Even asking that at the start of the job. Go, mate, how much of this materials, more in the cabinetry appliances type of arena, tiles and stuff, are you ordering in month 4 for month 9 when you need it? And if they don't give a good answer then that's not a good answer. And how are you going to pay that deposit? How are you cash flowing that? Those kind of things are topics that you should have a nice, frank, open discussion about. And it's not to say you need a 4-hour interview to build 10 townhouses, but I'm just saying these are the kind of things that you should be having top of mind to just have a bit of a yarn about, just get a bit of a vibe check, ask some questions, and hopefully you get nice standardized kind of answers. Not can't talk to him, don't want to do that, that guy's a prick, those lenders fucking, you got to call a call center to bloody get your progress claim. They're the kind of things you don't want to hear, right? So yeah, definitely ask more questions. 2 ears, 1 mouth, and hear what they've got to say.
When I was having issues with my builder, the quantity surveyor was actually probably the most critical person in the team that I was dealing with. They were,
and so imagine choosing
helpful.
A lender to save 40 grand on a 12 mil job, and the quantity surveyor they give you is literally 21 years old, straight out of uni, and doesn't know what day of the week it is. And he's, like you say, the most important person on your job. So
I had countless conversations with him about what the builder was asking for, what was reasonable, should we agree, should we not? Had so many conversations with him because he wasn't charging me, which was really nice. But every time you pick up the phone to the lawyer, it's $500 an hour.
Exactly.
You're having 30-minute phone calls about some minor point in the contract. What's this costing me just to ask him about something?
Exactly, yeah. And that's where having that collaborative team, where seeing the QS as part of the team that's going to help solve problems, not that idiot that doesn't bloody approve stuff. There's a difference in the way you approach things as a developer that'll have an outcome, a different outcome for you. Seeing that QS as a vital part of your team, which you've just said, is key. I see, some people that are combative towards them, not good. It's not going to get you far.
Yeah. Well, some of the warning signs for me is slowness, which you covered. Like, why is it taking so long to do this 8-unit site? We should be smashing through this, and it's going really, really slow. Then you start getting the requests for extensions of time that may or may not be legitimate, and this is where you can get into trouble if the contract's vague about how the builder can apply for those extensions of time.
Yep.
Variations, they start asking for more money, or they want cash payments. I think that's like a huge red flag for me.
Yep.
And then if you see a lot of revolving trades on the site, which if you're going there regularly, 6 different plumbers are coming on.
Yeah, that's usually the precursor of someone's not getting paid. And most lenders, as part of the drawdown, will ask the QS to sign a stat deck saying everyone's paid. Sure, there's plenty of false stat decks floating around the construction industry, I'll tell you. Whereas if you can rock up on site with the Justin Getty developer name badge and the subbies wave low and they're nice to you and polite, probably means they're getting paid, probably means they've got other jobs with that guy, and it probably means they like him.
Yeah, and I always try and ask that question in a diplomatic way, because I think you've got to be careful when you're on site, just rolling up to the trades and going, "Oh, is the builder paying you?"
Well, I tell you what, if he's not paying him, you'll soon find out.
Yeah, but you can find out how they're going.
You
worked with them for very long and got a lot of other stuff on. Are they good with paying? This casual kind of conversation, you can glean a lot of helpful, insightful intelligence about the builder and how your project's going.
Yep. Absolutely. And again, referring to the QS, if the QS has worked with that builder before, great. How did they go? Like if you can get a QS talking highly about a builder, that is a massive tick for me. Because that means they don't argy-bargy on every drawdown. They don't, swear and cuss at every time he misses something, or you should have done this, you should have done that. If you can get a QS giving a big green tick to a builder, that's probably the highest tick you'd want, Previous client, good. QS, who's got to work with him on this upcoming job, excellent.
Let's quickly talk about stepping in or taking over. It's kind of the last resort, really. For the first thing for me is you have to contractually be aware of when and how you can actually step in. So cancelling the contract, sacking the builder, and then stepping in or taking out. It's really it's a last resort. You don't want to have to do it. But
it's a very last resort. I've probably more so seen it when the builder's gone under or voluntarily said, I'm going to step away from this job because I've got issues elsewhere. And I've seen that. I've seen the builders put their hand up saying, yes, I agreed to a fixed price contract. Gee, the costs are blowing out massively. I need 400 grand or I'm going to walk away from the job. That's a nice, open, honest conversation. And I've seen the developer go, I'll pay you, even though it's not in the contract, because I want you to finish the job and I want you to finish with more money in your pocket than you started. Through that period of 22, 23, plenty of builders did a job for love and no money, no profit, and even lost money. That's definitely one to factor in. I know we say lawyers aren't where you want to start the conversation, but definitely getting that contract right up front as well, and possibly like the specialist construction lawyer is good to have early and short and sharp and not have to talk to them again. But they'll give you some pointers as well. And it might be that they've had issues with that builder, or it might be they've had issues with that style of contract, and they can very quickly tell you with 10 tweaks of a couple of clauses how to make that less builder-focused, that build contract. Seen that a few times, and people adopt it, and it saves them a lot of pain later. Or they've gone, no, I'm not going to pay $3-4 grand for a construction lawyer to look at a contract, blah, 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 and it costs them 40-50 grand in the end. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, definitely they can be an ally and they can be collaborative, helping you to get the outcome. We were talking about finishing the job, weren't we?
You got to be careful, particularly around the contract and doing it properly, because if you incorrectly sack the builder, usually there's clauses in the contract that then allow them to sue you for their lost profit and their lost earnings.
Definitely. I'll tell you an example, literally last week, of a job that we were going to come in and take over with 500 grand in a month to go. It's an $8 million house. And we said, great, here's our tripartite deed that you'll need to look at, Mr. Builder. Big red pens, scanned and, I was going to say fax back, but scanned and sent back to us. No, I'm not signing this, blah, blah, blah. Righto. Prepayment of some stuff. He was asking us, are we going to prepay a heap of stuff? We're like, QS, drawdown, blah, blah, blah. No. The builder and developer, they've been working together for 3 years. They had a fight last week. The builder gave 3 show cause breach notices. One of them was for attending site. That's a tick in his court. The next one was for, it was like damage of property or something. The guy went to put a tarpaulin over an open section, the developer, and the builder gives him a breach notice for, like, I don't know if it was stealing property or something. I'm like, didn't this escalate from 3 weeks ago? We were looking at, lending $6 million on this thing to get it finished, to now they're reaching for the contract and litigation lawyers and all kinds of stuff. This is in the last week. This has happened. So we had a coffee with him on Thursday, and he was talking us through all this stuff that's happened literally that week. So the builder has gone AWOL 3 breach notices in a week, and he's now out of there. He's gone, I'm out. See you later. Put yourself in the builder's shoes. Well, this is what I said to the developer. He's done a $4.5 million build contract. He's got 500 grand to go. He's had to down tools and get off site because your lender's being painful to you. We're the new lender coming in to save the day. His profit tied up in that last 500 grand of works is probably 80 grand on a 500 grand bit of contract left. And now he's got a new tripartite. He's got all this kind of stuff. I can kind of understand that he's throwing the shits. He's gone, hang on, I could go and do a fresh 10 mil build over here, which has got $1.5 million of profit for me. Or I can sit here and quibble around over shit for another 6-7 weeks. And the developers, kind of a little bit frustrated in the process as well. Bang, 3 show cause notices, breach notices, he's out of there, gone. So, yeah, you got to be careful on where you push things and pull things. And yeah, it was a comment there, it was like one comment when I got down to because I wanted to find out what happened. It was like one comment in a conversation on a site visit, and bang, his builders flicked the switch and said, "No, screw you." And the QS, we checked the QS. We said, "Have you worked with this builder before?" "Yep, great, no problems at all." Within 1 week, total about face, and now it's a shit show. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, well, there's just so much money on the line, especially at the back end. Everyone's under pressure. It can be a real pressure cooker scenario.
Yeah. And so, sorry to go back to that one, but he's now threatening to issue practical completion so that he can demand final payment. And he's now saying that's a variation, that last bit of 500 grand work. It wasn't in the original contract. The developer's now doesn't have a leg to stand on. So, yeah, it can really quickly kind of backfire if you push too hard. Poke the bear, you'll probably get bitten. And that's why I say the builder usually has more strength in the contract than you do. So you got to tread carefully on those things. So they were friends 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and this is why the contract is so important and having it done properly. I think that's one of those areas where people skimp and they just think, "Oh, I'll just use a industry standard template contract and it'll all be great. I get on really well with the builder. He's a good bloke. We've had a few cups of coffee and he seems like a really good guy."
Yeah.
He may be,
Yeah.
and everything's fine when everything's okay.
Yeah.
But when it's not, that's when you find out whether your contract's any good and what kind of character you are and the person you're dealing with is.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're not negotiating, you're arguing over how much is to be paid, and he's already got you on default rates for not paying him on time, and you got all kinds of breach notices thrown at you, and it can get ugly really quick. So That's why it's always best to be collaborative and keep everyone happy and always have an open door. Let's talk about it, solve the problem kind of approach.
Oh yeah, it's always fun when you're having discussions about show cause notices. You think that's not really going great when they're talking show cause notices.
Yeah.
But yeah, stepping in or taking out is this sort of last resort. And as you've found yourself, like finding another builder to come in, especially if you're past frames, and most people are just going to go, no way. And you can understand why. It's like,
you're taking on someone else's headaches,
being done.
It's definitely not good. I'm trying to think of instances where, the developer has frustrated and kicked the builder off, and I can't think of that many. So yeah, not much more to add on that one because I can't think of one that's happened in the last years that I could point to. It's probably more the builder kicking himself off the job because of lack of payment, not approving variations even though they were verbally agreed, a raft of things that the developer can do wrong. It's easier for the developer to stuff things up than it is for the builder.
Yeah,
and the contract is massively in the builder's favour. Yep.
I was within a hair's breadth of taking over or bringing on a new builder down to the last day on the show cause notice period. And so I'd been through this whole process of stepping in or taking it over, and it's daunting. It's really isn't something that you want to do. So you've got to try and work your way through it and
Yep,
not get to that point, I think is really
definitely not.
the end game. Because if you,
No,
yeah,
unless you want to be wearing a hard hat, slinging a hammer yourself. You want to keep them on site, keep them paid.
yeah, which I didn't have the hard hat on, but yeah, being on site just to keep things moving, you think, oh my God, there's just so many moving parts and so much to try and coordinate and organize. Just you're better off leaving it to people. That's what they do.
And definitely, like you kick a builder off, and you've got to go and chase all those certificates and try and get the civic occupancy and all that kind of stuff. It's yeah, one of the jobs that we're trying to finish in Sydney. You know, we're chasing those certificates and all that kind of stuff as the lender, because the builder developer's kind of gone, I'm not getting much out of this. I'm not going to give much more of my time and effort. Yeah, trying to chase them on a job where they've been slow paid or not paid, it's a nightmare. Yeah, definitely trying to keep the builder happy is your best path of action.
Yeah. So my key piece of advice, wrapping all this up, is do your due diligence thoroughly prior to starting the construction phase, because that
Definitely.
really just helps try and make everything work. And then if the builder does go under during the build for whatever reason, then you just have to work through the problem and
Yep.
solve it.
Yep. And as I said, well, you know, bring in the experience of your team, the quantity surveyor, the lender, you know, your lawyer if you have to, even engaging a project manager. I've seen developers engage a project manager mid-construction when they're having a bit of a barney. You'll often find that a quantity surveyor might have a project management arm, and they can actually step up. In the case of a potentially less experienced developer on a decent sized job, we will actually suggest to them that if things don't go well, that the quantity surveyor actually jump in as a bit of a project manager. It's not so much like a superintendent, like they're just signing things off, but actually that they step into a project manager's role, and for a couple of grand a month, they become the conduit between you and the builder and the developer. And that keeps things commercial, because it's not you, the emotional developer, who's, you know, trying to maximize his profit. It's then a bit more of a binary conversation, because the QS, who's the middleman, who isn't a stakeholder, is kind of going, well, this is how things are normally done, mate. This is why we're doing it this way, and this is why we're suggesting that. So that can be a really good handy tip for people, is sometimes it's good to bring somebody in who's less emotional and more contractual, black and white. This is how we're going to do it, kind of get on with it. So there's a handy hint. Yeah, sometimes bringing a QS into a bigger role will help smooth the process out and help solve a problem if one arises.
So are you finding that you're stepping in from a lending point of view a bit more? Because it sounds like you've kind of taken over a couple of projects.
Yeah, I'd say it's more us being.
Refinancing.
I'd say it's probably more us just being a little bit more attentive than your average lender, and us kind of asking the questions that maybe other lenders don't, and kind of wanting to know what the problem is. Because yeah, plenty of jobs have a problem at some point in time. We're probably just a little bit more across the detail. You know, we'll be out on site every couple of months with the QS and just a little bit more hands-on, so that if a problem arises, that we can solve it. And yeah, I'm talking to keep it interesting, topical. I'm talking about jobs that have gone wrong over the years, but because they're the interesting ones, right? Yeah, I'd say out of our loan book, as I said at the moment, 2 of our 33 are needing help, but we're giving that help. But we were there trying to help before it was a problem as well. We don't just go, oh, you got a problem, borrower. Here's a lawyer. We're wanting to be involved and solve these things. So that's why we're probably across more detail than most.
Yeah, and that's a point I would like to make, is that you learn the most when things go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
So as painful as it is when you're in the crap in the project, thinking, woe is me, you sort of have to lift your eyes up and think, I'm going to get through this and I'm going to be better for it. And
Yep.
you are. Once you get out the other side, you've got so much more experience, you feel a lot more confidence in your capability, and it's going to stand you in good stead for your future projects.
Yep, absolutely. And as we said, and I'll close on this one, even a good developer can have an issue with a builder. Even a good project can have challenges that you didn't foresee at the start. I'd like to think we lend to very good caliber borrowers, and we do our homework on them. Even they have issues with a builder or a agency authority party who's not giving a certificate or something or other, there's going to be an issue. It's just being resourceful enough, and having a bit of foresight that you can jump in and solve that problem. I'd say that's the key, and hopefully the takeaway from this message is that it's how resourceful you are to solving that problem, whether the problem's a builder, whether the problem's whatever it might be. That's how you're going to get it fixed quickly and get on with it.
And just quickly, do you see any issues that developers might have when these projects blow out with either joint venture partners or investors that are involved? And do you have any advice for how you might manage those relationships or stakeholders?
Yeah, so it's one that is usually given to us as a legacy issue, because we've had a couple of those, silent investors that become less silent when shit's hitting the fan. We've had a couple of them. We're a lot more cautious of it now. We ask every borrower before we lend to them, do you have any private investors that are hidden in the background? Tell us now or forever hold your peace. And if they tell us and we like them and we like the project, we'll probably still fund it. If they don't tell us and we find out, we're going to be pretty unhappy later down the track. And yes, we've had issues on a job in particular where, investors come and register on title and prevent settlements right before completion. This is one in Sydney last year, demanding money and all this kind of stuff. And it can get really messy from that point of view. And funny, even on a new borrower meeting I had Tuesday afternoon, brought to us by a broker. The broker calls me back yesterday and goes, why would you care if someone else is behind you on title? Like, mate, we care a lot, because when we go to settle this thing and we've got a buyer who wants to move in next week, and this investor who's unhappy and been promised the world and given an atlas, and they're not getting their money back, or there's an issue or it's months overdue, they're going to hold the whole process up. Meanwhile, the borrower's at peak debt, paying interest, on the whole loan amount. It's scary times. So, some lenders would say it's your problem, you're the borrower, you fix it. We just want to know that there's people in the background and what the relationship is and how you know them. Did you find them on Facebook Marketplace, or is it your cousin's rich best friend? Just understanding that context for us as a lender is the kind of things we want to get comfort with. But definitely you see a lot, some issues there from projects that could have gone really well, and an investor from the background in the back seat jumps in the driver's seat and tries to be a pain.
How would you describe a silent investor?
Well, we get presented with opportunity, loan opportunities where they say, oh, I've got a silent investor in the background. But a silent investor being that they're not on title, they're not a shareholder in the entity doing the project, but they're a kind of a lender to the project. And so they're ones that we get presented with. And like the broker who called me back yesterday, we had a meeting on Tuesday with the borrower and the broker. We asked those questions, and the borrower was honest, thankfully, and said, yes, I've got an investor in the background. We were going to give them a second mortgage after we settle with you. All right, well, that's good to know now, because it's a bit of a scary proposal. The broker's saying, well, what do you care? You've got a first mortgage, and what do you care is not the answer we want to hear. Kind of trying to explain to him, like I'm just explaining now, those issues that can arise when you're trying to get settlements and repay the loan, and that the tail's wagging the dog with that investor holding everything up is scary. From a lender's point of view, we want to know about it. As I said, it's not to say we won't do the deal, but we want to know what's in the loan agreement, what rights do they have, what security they have. If it's a personal guarantee and your parent company operating only security, or they have project-specific security that they could upset the apple cart, delay the process. Mate, we could talk for hours about that. So it's a whole other topic, can of worms. I will give the book a little plug, Constructive Finance. It's a cost-effective resource where I talk about all this stuff. I'd suggest if you haven't read it, jump in. I think it's a 5-hour read. And it talks we've talked for 90 minutes about one topic. I talk about a whole raft of topics there. So I'd suggest grabbing that. And it talks about investors and the issues and all kinds of stuff that you can face on that one. So being conscious of time, and we're already 90 minutes in, I'll leave it there. And I guess close by saying it's a pretty interesting topic. That's why I was keen to talk about it. Hopefully sharing some insights both me as a project that I did that didn't go well, the builder going broke, and also some insights that I've had as a lender sitting on the sidelines and sometimes rolling the sleeves up and having to solve these problems. Hopefully that gives some food for thought.
Yes, well, hopefully, as you say, things are stabilising in the construction industry, but I think
it is. I think it's calming waters ahead, not rougher waters ahead.
Yeah, I think it's still going to be challenging and costly for the next few years to get stuff built. So that's going to present other challenges in terms of feasibilities, particularly in places like Sydney and Melbourne. But we'll keep a watching brief on that and we'll see where it goes. But anyway, Dan, always really fun to speak with you.
Yes.
I always recommend people read Constructive Finance. I think it's a really great book. So, yep, grab a copy of that. And if people want to get in touch with you, talk about their projects, future needs, perhaps,
absolutely,
where can they reach you?
Happy to have a chat. Yep, either call the office or shoot me an email, dh@hg.net.au. Simple one to remember. Or the book is available at constructivefinance.com.au or the Holden Capital website. Or I think you can buy it on Amazon. But if you buy it through Constructive Finance, I'll write a little note in there and say, thanks, good luck with your journey. And feel free to reach out. Happy to talk through scenarios. Happy to quote up funding jobs for sure.
Dan, always great to see and speak with you. Thanks for being on the Property Developer Podcast again.
Thanks, Justin. Good chatting.
See ya.
You've been listening to the Property Developer Podcast. Tune in next time for more tips, ideas and inspiration to take your developing to the next level. For more developing love, make sure to visit propertydeveloperpodcast.com.